I'm Jonathan Keaton, and right beside me is Michael Wood, and welcome to 1497 Podcast.
And we've got you covered with news from the entertainment world, intriguing interviews, everything to do with sports, and of course, we're going to make you laugh along the way.
And I want my damn respect too.
Yo! Welcome back to 1497 Podcast, baby. I'm your host, Jonathan Keaton. Right beside me is the greatest co-host to ever walk foot on planet Earth, Michael Wood, a.k.a. Mr. Wood, a.k.a. the Woodster. Michael Wood is in the house. Well, before we get started, it's a special day for one of us on 1497 Podcast. It's Michael Wood's birthday. Woo-hoo! Yeah, I wish I had a choir with me real quick, but we're gonna go solo. We're gonna go solo on this, and then once this song goes live, I'm gonna get a music deal after this. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's just a regular day. Unfortunately, I got to take a final exam right after we get off this. So not looking forward to that. But other than that, I've had a good day. How's your day been?
It's been pretty good. I had to fight off the pain that I was feeling yesterday after the Bucks game. Almost had to punch a couple walls, but we're going through it day by day, or not day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. So we all good. We all good.
That's good to hear. You guys kind of got screwed. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what I see with the pass interference call in overtime, because I saw like the highlights of it so many times. I was like, okay, well that was pass interference. But then they didn't call it on Stephon Diggs. So I was like, well, come on. Like, you gotta call that. Like, that was a pivotal time again.
There were definitely some bad calls. That's saying it lightly.
Yeah, and it's Brady too. So like I expected like calls not to be called because like it's Brady. And it makes me so mad to say that, but like it's reality at this point. And then it puts the Bills in like a position where we need to win out, but like Josh Allen has an injury. And I kind of want to see Mitch Trubisky play. And I kind of want Josh Allen to rest because I got faith in Mitch, Mike. I got faith in Mitch.
Hey, you guys, you got an easy schedule remaining. So you got to play the Pats one time. But other than that, none of the teams have a winning record. So I think the Bills have a good shot to get in the playoffs. But hopefully nothing is too wrong injury-wise with any of the players because they were the best team that maybe even in the league halfway through the season. They just kind of hit a couple of roadblocks here, got demolished by the Colts. Things went a little downhill, but it doesn't mean the season's over. If they get into the playoffs, anything can happen. That playoff time is when miracles happen. So the Bills get into the playoffs. They win. I think they would only have to win 2 of their last 3, but they win 2 of their last 4. If they win 3 of their last 4, they'll be in the playoffs, and they're still a threat. They're still a threat in the AFC. So with or without Josh Allen, I think this team will make the playoffs. It just depends how far they go is going to depend on whether or not Josh Allen is there.
Facts. And speaking of former Chicago Bears quarterbacks, the last person to lead the Bears into the playoffs was, that's right, Mitch Trubisky. So I have, all jokes aside, if Mitch comes out on the field and he has to start against Carolina, I'm completely comfortable with that. Just like how Ravens fans should be comfortable with Tyler Huntley going into Green Bay and possibly shaking up things a little bit if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley, he's played in a few games, and it seems to happen every time. He gets in there, and he looks bad. And then settles into the game, and he looks good. He starts off, and it's like, why is this guy a quarterback in the NFL? And then he reminds you on like his second or third drive, like that first drive, he has not played good in any of the games that he's played in. But then from then on, you're like, this guy can ball. He's a baller. So, and he's not Lamar. He is not Lamar. The Ravens are going to need Lamar if they want any sort of playoff success. But Tyler Huntley's going to be able to get it done a few games here and there. And they're going to be playing teams who are like, okay, they don't have Lamar. This is going to be a walk in the park, like a Green Bay team. So I'm certainly not going to count them out. I'm still going to have to probably pick Green Bay just because, they got the baddest man on planet Earth and Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, Tyler Huntley, he's being doubted a lot by a lot of people saying he's not all that or whatever. But I watched the game and I can tell you he is all that.
Yeah, and I watched the game too with them playing against the Browns, and the first like couple possessions that he was in, you're absolutely right. He wasn't playing good at all, and then because like with the strip sack that turned into 6, but I don't know if this is the theme from Sunday or just throughout the whole NFL this season is the second half, because like teams and players just love to play good in the second half. And that was Taylor Huntley right there. He was just balling out. Did you see that run that he had?
Yeah.
It was like second and like 30. And then that amazing ball he threw to Rashad Bateman to set up a touchdown. And then the way that he was dealing it to Mark Andrews. He isn't no Lamar Jackson. And I'm not saying that he should start over Lamar Jackson, but I think that Ravens fans should be a little comfortable going into these games because they have played so well without key players on their squads, especially defensively.
Yeah, the Ravens are certainly going to be a team that come playoff time, people are going to have to worry about. Right now, they do have a tough road ahead of them. None of the teams that they play have a losing record. So the Ravens have their work cut out for them. And depending on Lamar Jackson's status, it kind of goes the same thing for the Bills. But I'm a little bit more worried about Lamar because it looked like it was like an Achilles injury. So listen, Tyler Huntley's going to be able to get it done a game or maybe even 2. But he's not going to help you win three or all 4 of these games. You're going to need Lamar Jackson for that. So if Lamar doesn't play the rest of the season, hate to say it, but the Baltimore Ravens won't make the playoffs.
Ooh, so all right. So you opened the key to my mind real quick. So hypothetical world, let's say Tyler Huntley is in for the last 4 games, and then you got the wild AFC North. You got how it's so close. Who wins the AFC North then? If Tyler Huntley is the starter for all 4 weeks, and all the other quarterback situations in the AFC North.
See, that's tough. The reason why none of these teams have cupcake schedules coming down the stretch, like they're all playing good teams. And believe it or not, I think that it's going to be the Bengals or the Browns. And I don't know how absurd you think that is, but the Steelers play the Titans this week, who the Titans haven't looked good, but they're still not a bad team. And the Chiefs, who look really good, then they play the Browns and then the Ravens. So I can see the Steelers winning 2 out of these 4, but I can't see them winning more than that. So for that reason, I don't think they're winning. So I think it's going to be the Browns or the Bengals.
I don't think that's out of the park, especially for the Browns, because like you look at the opposition for the Browns, their schedule matches up with them defensively. They can shut down most of the teams that they play, and offensively, Baker Mayfield's got to step up. That's what's holding them back right now. And I think if Baker Mayfield, even if he plays mediocre football, the Browns can get by because they have so many good assets towards them that can drive them through this wave to get into the playoffs. But Kareem Hunt, if he's out for a significant amount of time, I actually wouldn't be worried because Dearness Johnson's been balling out ever since he's got that shot to be the starter against Denver. So Cleveland, I don't think that's absurd. Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati is a very young team that I think that's going to be compromised in these upcoming weeks. And I don't think that their offensive line is ready for what these defenses have prepared for them coming up. Because Joe Burrow, despite them going into overtime, he was sacked 5 times against that San Francisco defense. And he's been in the mix of one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL, despite them being in the playoff race right now.
So are you picking the Browns then as your team to make it out the AFC North?
You might think this is a little a little out of the ordinary, but I think the Steelers can. I think the Steelers can win it. I think they can, because Mike Tomlin is their head coach. Now, I know your mind is probably blowing up right now. You're probably thinking, John, what in the world are you talking about right now? They still have a Hall of Fame coach on their side. They still have a Hall of Fame quarterback that, in that second half of that Vikings game, played absolutely phenomenal. And there's stretches where in the second half, we've seen vintage Big Ben do his thing. And I love Pat Fryermuth, the direction that he's going throughout his first year. They gotta improve the offensive line a little bit. The offensive line is still having troubles, but Najee Harris is having a good season. And Chase Claypool, if he matures just a little bit for this last stretch of games, and hopefully this benching humbles him, they have a strong shot of not only taking control of their own destiny, but winning the division. That tie is going to hurt them, though.
Okay, so I do, like, they got Mike Tomlin, they got all this.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the Steelers, they're currently 11th in the AFC. So they're one game or half game back from the Browns and the Bengals, and then a game and a half back from the Ravens. So that means that they're going to have to win this division. They're going to have to win out. That's the only way that the Steelers even have a chance at winning the division is if they win out, and then the Ravens don't win 2 games. The Ravens only win 1 game, the Browns only win 2, and the Bengals only win 2. So there's a lot, like the Steelers are not in control of their own destiny in terms of winning the division. The only teams that are the 3 above them. If the 3 above them win out, okay, I guess it's only the Bengals and the Ravens are the only 2 in this division and control their own destiny. So I don't hate saying that they can win, but I don't think that they will, just because there's too much that needs to happen for the Steelers to win. I think that they can make the playoffs. I think that's reasonable, but winning this division, I think it's locked on the Steelers right now.
Yeah, and then what I meant by like controlling their destiny is like if they get like a couple, like if they get 2 wins under their belt, because obviously they're gonna have to put their faith in a lot of teams' hands right now. So I just wanted to get that across real quick. But yeah, it's gonna be a hard climb up that mountain for the Steelers. But for a guy like Mike Tomlin that's never had a losing record, you can imagine what the practices and the speeches have been like throughout this past week from that Thursday night football game on what the message is going forward and how do you progress that? How do you progress that message on the field and off the field? So we will see, because not only the AFC North is wild, the whole playoff race. I think this is the tightest both conferences playoff races have ever been in probably our lifetime.
Yeah, it's really close. I mean, you look, like I just told you, the Steelers are 11th, and they're still in the playoff picture, that's absurd. Normally, you don't hear about that in the NFL, especially coming this late to the season. So yeah, there's so many teams that can make the playoffs, and so many teams that are in right now that we might not see in. For example, hate to bring it up, but your Buffalo Bills, there's a world where they don't make the playoffs. Lucky for them, they got a schedule that allows them to, but they're ahead of a lot of teams that have shots at making the playoffs. So, and a lot of teams that are down there, even like the Dolphins. The Dolphins are still somehow in the playoff race. So it's going to be really, really interesting to watch these last few weeks unfold, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to see, flipping it to the NFC, with the Eagles. Like the Eagles they can make it. And I like him. I like what I'm seeing from Jalen Hurts too. It's like Jalen Hurts is getting better each and every week, and the receivers are playing better. Besides Jalen Reagor, last time we played, he dropped the game-winning touchdown. But that defense has been playing good. I think the Eagles can slip their way through into the 6 or 7 seed. They just gotta hope that one of those top teams loses. What is your thought process right now on the Eagles?
Yeah, so the Eagles are actually a team where you mentioned it about some of those AFC teams we were talking about. The Eagles do control their own destiny. Reason why? They play Washington football team. They play them twice. They play the Cowboys and then they play the Giants. So those 4 games are all winnable games. You can say whatever you want about them not being able to beat the Cowboys, but I believe that they can because they got, whether or not you want to say Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew, they have a quarterback who can play. Whoever's starting, their quarterback can play. Washington has looked good, but they weren't able to get it done this week. So I think that presents a chance for the Eagles to open it up. Then they got the Giants, who just aren't very good. Then Washington again. So yeah, the Eagles, if they didn't lose to the Giants last time they were on the field, or 3 weeks ago, I guess. If they didn't lose to the Giants, then the Eagles would be in the playoff picture right now. So they're a team that they just got to get it done, because right now, if they end up beating Washington both times they play, it won't matter what else Washington does. They'll have the tiebreaker on them, and they'll be in the playoffs. So Philly only has to be, they can make the playoffs at 8 and 9, as long as Minnesota, Atlanta, and New Orleans decide to not turn up, which I don't really see Atlanta or New Orleans coming out 9 and 7 or 9 and 8. Pardon me. So we will probably see a team in the NFC with a negative record, like under 500 record, just because right now there's 2 teams in the playoffs that are 6 and 7, or 1 team that's 6 and 7, but there's 5 teams that are 6 and 7 sitting on the edge. So I'm excited to see what the Eagles can do, because they have probably the easiest schedule, I would say, remaining, or one of them. So if they're not able to close it out, I think that says a lot about Coach Sirianni and whoever we have at quarterback going forward.
Yeah, and on top of that, the Cowboys, especially against the football team, defensively looked outstanding. Offensively, you're kind of scratching your head a little bit, like, wait a minute, where is the Dak Prescott and the offense that was playing well weeks 1 through 5 when they were going, or not weeks 1 through, like week 1 through 7 when they were dominating teams? Where's that team at? And then I'm gonna have to come out and say this: Dak Prescott's not playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. It hurts me. It hurts me to say it, because I'm a big advocate for the Dak Prescott program, but Dak, I can't say it right now, because you're not playing like that guy that I thought you were going to play like throughout the whole season. You're still in the top 10 conversation, but you can't be making mistakes like you were in the Washington football game. That game, I think they had like 6 or 7 guys. 3 of those guys on the defensive line were on COVID-19 reserve list. So they didn't have some of their top guys. You should be dishing and dealing to your wide receivers with that poor defense. And they kept that. They were beating themselves, and they ultimately almost beat it themselves, because Washington kept on getting chance after chance after chance to win that game. Dak's got to tighten up, and that offense got to tighten up, because they're in the risk of possibly fumbling the division away.
Yeah, a lot has to happen, but they don't look like a team that's locked to win. They only have to win 1 of their next 4, but or they have to win 2 of their next 4. And honestly, I can't say that they're locked to do that, to win 2 of their last 4. So also something that's not a lock: Russell Wilson and Derek Carr staying in their cities. Who is going to be done first?
Man. Like, Russell Wilson, I want to say Russ, but Russ is so loyal to the Seahawks that I don't see him going anytime soon. Like he's been there through the bad, he's been there through the good, and Pete Carroll's his guy. Tyler Lockett is his guy. I don't see Russ leaving. I see Derek Carr leaving the Raiders before Russ leaves the Seahawks. And the reason why is the toxicity of the Raiders and everything that goes on. I feel like Derek Carr, someone's going to be chirping in Derek Carr's ear, like, this is not good for your career, bro. You need to go somewhere else. You need to go where your talents can speak as much as your statistics speak about your talents. And what I mean by that is your stats might say one thing, but how you play says another thing. I think both of those need to match, but they're not going to match in Las Vegas. I think there's just too much damage that has been done. The coaching can't do it. The ownership can't do it. Derek Carr has got to get up and leave. It's the better for his career. I think Derek Carr is going to be the one to go before Russ.
Yeah, I think Derek Carr's gone too. Russ just hasn't played. He hasn't played a full season, and his situation is going to be more up to him. Like Seattle won't push Russ out. And like you said, he's too loyal, at least in my opinion, for him to just up and leave. And Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr's in the same situation where the management's not going to kick Derek Carr out. Reason being, what has gone right for Derek Carr this season?
Yeah,
Literally nothing. He's lost his number one receiver, lost his head coach, and it's just nothing's going right for Derek Carr, and he's still playing pretty good. They've lost some games, especially the most recent one. They lost that pretty handedly. I mean, they got embarrassed, but I still think Derek Carr is a guy who's going to have to decide on his own to walk out, and I think there's a higher chance that Derek Carr is like, okay, I'm done with the Raiders, then Russell Wilson says, I'm done with the Seahawks. So I agree with you. It's going to be Derek Carr. If one of them is gone, Derek Carr will leave first.
yeah. And speaking of leaving, San Francisco left a note to Cincinnati saying, even though we let you come back in this game, we are winning this game. Like Brandon Ayuk's touchdown, absolutely beautiful. The concentration, the footwork, beautiful play drawn up. And Jimmy G is kind of steering back the narrative as to when I'm the starter, we are successful. But I think they're still going to try to push Trey Lance in there, just like how the Bears tried to push. Well, they did ultimately push away Andy Dalton from the starting role, for him not doing anything. So the 49ers Bengals game, I was talking about before, the 49ers got 5 sacks. The Bengals got 5 sacks. Joe Burrow and the Jamar Chase connection has looked great. But on the flip side, Joe Burrow is taking a lot of sacks from that. But I think that the Bengals can lead this game off a high note, saying that our passing was there. We just got to get Joe Mixon back involved. We just got to keep on rolling because we have important games coming up. And if we lose, we're going to need other teams to lose with us. Overall, great game.
Yeah, it was probably the game of the week if we had to decide one of them being. But listen, if you're the Bengals, it's hard not to look at this game and say this is one we had to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be subconsciously thinking that for the 49ers, they have not an easy schedule, but a relatively easy schedule compared to what the Bengals have. The Bengals have all teams with winning records remaining on their schedule. So that's a game where if you're Cincinnati, it's going to be hard to say, man, we should have won that one. And you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the AFC North. This is a young team. So losing one like that's going to play a big impact on your playoff hopes. A lot of those guys on that team are going to kind of be sulking, and they're going to be like, man, if only we won that game. So we're going to see what kind of leaders they have on Cincinnati for sure, because listen, it's tough. That's going to be a tough one to just look over and say, okay, on to the next one. So depending on the type of leaders they have, we'll see, because they're playing Denver, and Denver's also in the playoff hunt. So it's not – people are acting like Denver's been a walk in the park all season. It won't be. Cincinnati's going to have a tough game cut out for them. But on to San Francisco. San Francisco played really good. You said they let them get back into it, but it was a good bounce back game after they lost to the Seahawks. The 49ers seem to always stick in these close games, kind of. I think they just have a knack for it. But Jimmy G has played really, really good football this season. 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He is dealing. He's got 66% completion. So Jimmy G looks really good. I'll give you that. But this is a game where where the San Francisco 49ers are like, did he really do, like, was Jimmy G good enough? Where we don't want to look at Trey Lance. And I think he was. I honestly think Jimmy G he keeps proving. He's like, because I mean that game against the Seahawks, they were like, okay, we might be out of the playoffs. So do we go to Trey Lance? And then Jimmy G comes back with this, throws 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, threw a lot of completions, few incompletions. So Jimmy G looked really good. 49ers are going to have a tough decision on their hands come next season, because I think the 49ers are going to end up being a playoff team when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think they're going to look at their last playoff game, and depending on the score and depending on Jimmy G's performance, they're going to look at that game and be like, okay, if Jimmy G plays bad, we're going to flirt with the idea of possibly starting Trey Lance week 1 on whoever they play. So I think that playoff game is a big implication as to, is Trey Lance going to be the week 1 starter, or is he just going to keep on rolling? Speaking of things that might come to an end, the Cam Newton experience. I mean, like, is it time to walk out the theater, or is the show still going to go on?
It's time to end it. I mean, come on. Cam Newton has not been playing good football. The last time Cam Newton did not start, they got a big win. So I just don't see how you can make a case that Cam Newton should be the starter over PJ Walker. I mean, if you want to make that case, you can go ahead and try. But Cam Newton has been he's been better than PJ Walker has been, at least in my opinion. Just not necessarily statistics wise, because I think Cam has been the best quarterback out of the 3 that they have. I don't even know if Sam Darnold's still on the team, but if he is,
I don't even know either.
Yeah, out of the 3 quarterbacks on that team, Cam Newton's definitely been the one making the biggest impact as far as like rushing and passing. So I don't know if it is Cam Newton, but at this point, why not give it back to PJ Walker and use Cam Newton in that utility role that he was in his first week with Carolina, because that worked out. I mean, you beat the number 1 team in the league in the Arizona Cardinals when you did that. So I don't know if it should be over, but they got to try something else, because currently it's not working, and they still have playoff hopes. Believe it or not, the Carolina Panthers still have playoff hopes, and I'm not sure Cam Newton has a shot at bringing them to the playoffs.
Listen, the Arizona Cardinals game, there was a lot of guys that were out on the Cardinals side, but a win's a win in the NFL. So kudos to Cam Newton. My hat's off is to you, but it's time to give your hat to someone else, man. Like the last 11 games that Cam Newton has started in, the Panthers are 0-11. And yes, he has been doing it rushing wise, but he's been risky. He's been iffy on the passing game, and it's just making their offense one-dimensional. They're not utilizing the weapons that they have in Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, and all the good wide receivers that they have. I'd give PJ Walker a chance. Hell, I'd even go back to Sam Darnold, because
no.
Man, if Sam Darnold needs a little revive, like Odell gave himself against Jacksonville, against Buffalo is a perfect chance to do that. I'd give Sam Darnold another chance.
All 3 of their quarterbacks might play against Buffalo, because that defense, I know Buffalo's been struggling, but they still got a really good defense. So we might see all 3 quarterbacks, and they might all throw a pick or 2. Just Panthers are going downhill fast, and Cam Newton is not the answer.
Imagine, like, what has that ever happened in NFL history, or like
I don't know.
each quarterback threw a pick?
Probably not, to be honest. Going 3 quarterbacks deep, that's pretty bad. So that might happen. I could definitely see it happening just because I don't know how they're gonna have success against Buffalo, if I'm being honest.
I don't know either. Plus, Buffalo's gonna come in angry that
Yeah.
Tom Brady, the man that's been just messing with the Buffalo's franchise ever since he came into the league, just dismantled them every single passing play, which was almost every single play in that game. So I wouldn't be surprised either. Man, oh man, Carolina, Matt Rule, y'all just gotta, man. I don't even know. I don't know anymore. I'm just in confusion. Is the Chiefs defense elite? Speaking of confusion, ever since the Chiefs, I don't know what game was their get back game, but ever since they got Melvin Ingram, it's like Steve Spagnuolo is like, you know what? I'm a blitz, and I'm gonna just keep on blitzing until it doesn't work. The blitz been effective for them.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it an elite defense. I mean, they held the Raiders to 9, and the Raiders have not looked good,
Mhm.
like a lot of teams in the NFL recently. But still, they held an NFL team to 9, which is pretty impressive. And the Chiefs have what's their win streak right now?
I think it's
6.
5. Yeah, I think it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah, it's anyway. They got a pretty big win streak. The last team to score over 20 on them, you got to go all the way back to October 10th, so 2 months ago when the Bills did it. And that was when the Chiefs were 2-3. So no team has scored over 20 points on them in 2 months. So is the Chiefs defense a top 5 defense? Honestly, I don't know. Because if we're looking at just pure stats, those first 5 weeks they got dismantled. So the numbers won't show it. But these last couple weeks, the Chiefs defense. Oh, pardon me, I misspoke. They got 27 put up on them by the Titans. October 24th. So still almost 2 months ago. So since that Titans game, the Chiefs defense has not given up over 20 points. So are they top 5? I couldn't tell you that. Are they elite? By the looks of it, yeah. Chiefs defense is elite.
Are they top 5? I'm in the same boat. That question's gonna be answered Thursday night if they're top 5, because they're going up against a passing offense that just dismantled the Giants defense. And not only that, that's been rolling on this electricity that they've been igniting throughout this whole season. Justin Herbert has looked amazing and made Mike Williams look like a true wide receiver 1 on most teams. Like, he's been playing outstanding football with Justin Herbert. And then Austin Eckler's doing his thing. So if they're able to hold the Chargers under, I'd say 17 points, I would call that defense not only elite, but a top 5 defense. So I really want to see, I'm really intrigued about that game, because not only the Chargers have a defensive minded coach, they have a really good offense. And I don't think the Chiefs have played a good, like a top 10 offense on this little roll. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Chiefs, but I think this is going to be their true test on whether their defense is elite and top 5.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers have done one thing and one thing well all season, and that's play offense. They haven't been great defensively, haven't been great on special teams, but the Chargers can play offense. So we're going to really see what the Chiefs defense is about. So that's going to be a good game.
Speaking of good games, this Monday Night Football, without Jalen Ramsey, which I didn't find out until I started watching the pregame show, Jalen Ramsey's not playing. Tyler Higbee's not playing. And there's other notable defensive players that aren't playing for the Rams. So if any better that's listening, what are we telling them to bet for? Are we going for the over, or are we going for the under in this one?
Let's see, the over, just so I can give you an idea here. The over is 51. Oh,
Sheesh.
51, man. All right. When the Rams played the Packers, it would have hit that over.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say yeah. I'll say yeah, because the Cardinals, their last game would have hit 51 as the over. And I know both these teams have good defenses, but it seems like whenever the Cardinals play a high-powered offense, their defense just doesn't really show up, and it's an offensive game. So I'm gonna say go for the over on this one.
For me, because earlier on the other show I'm on, the after party, shout out the after party.
Shout out the after party.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was talking about how this was going to be a low scoring game. And this was way before I knew Jalen Ramsey was even playing or not. But since Jalen Ramsey's not playing, one of those receivers is going to have a big day. So if you have a guy like Christian Kirk, AJ Green, or even Zach Ertz as your flex option, and it's still there, I would keep it there for fantasy because they're going to have a big day. Or Rondell Moore. Rondell Moore is what I meant to say. Rondell Moore, if you got one of those guys as your flex option on fantasy, I'd keep it there because one of those guys is going to have a great game and it's going to be an offensive showdown. So, yeah, I would go with the over 2. And for the prediction, I think the Rams are going to pull this out. Rams got to win this game.
Yeah, the Rams have not looked really good since acquiring OBJ, and that's not because of OBJ. It's just that's just how it's been. I'm going with the Rams as well. I think it's an underdog pick. I feel like every time, this is actually a true fact. Every time you and I pick against both of us pick against the Cardinals and both of us pick against the Chiefs win and the Cardinals win. So we're both picking against the Cardinals again. So let's see if they move to 4-0 here.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's test the statistics. Come on. So we talked about the AFC and we talked about the NFC and their wild playoff race. So as we grab out our notebook paper and we're scanning 1 through 7 each conference, all 14 teams, quick math right there. Which wild card team should I say 5 through 7 is the most legit? I should have started off saying that.
Ooh, which wild card team is the most legit? Whew. All right. So just a refresher here. The wild card teams are currently the wild card teams are currently in the AFC, the Chargers, the Colts, and the Bills. And in the NFC, the Rams, 49ers, and football team. So I feel like the easy answer here is the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like that's the cut and dry answer. But I got to go into the AFC because one of those teams in the AFC has been my Super Bowl pick since the get-go, the Indianapolis Colts. They're the most dangerous team, not only in the wild card, but in the entire playoffs. Because if that man Jonathan Taylor gets going, then you already know CW11 is going to be out there cooking, the Red Rifle Jr. The Colts are a dangerous team. The only problem is they haven't really got it going when they've played tougher competition. I mean, they played the Rams, played the Titans, they lost twice. They played the Patriots this week. So listen, Patriots win streak is going to end this weekend. I'm telling you right here, right now. So just make sure you stay or not this weekend. I mean, I guess this weekend, but next weekend, Sunday, or Saturday. They play Saturday. Win streak is going to end on Saturday for the Patriots.
I'm at the write that down, make that a hot take. Throw that on the Instagram. Man, I mean, if the Colts win, that puts the Patriots what? They're 9-4, and the Bills are 7-6. Hey, possible division for the Bills, but in an odd world in the reality that's not going to happen because Bills dig a deep hole for themselves. But if I'm going with an answer for the NFC that's not the Rams, I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco 49ers, every single game, they always have a guy that you don't expect to step up for them. And not only that, let me rephrase that. That tells me that team is just so deep and so dangerous going into playoffs that it's unbelievable that they can have any guy step up for them at any given time. And on top of that, if they play a team like the Rams, I learned this earlier today. Kyle Shanahan in his career has never lost to the Rams. So going against the Rams up in I think not next week, but the week after, I can take the 49ers in that game. And I think they'll lock up their position at that playoff spot. And hopefully the Minnesota Vikings get in because that would just hurt against my Kirk Cousins campaign. That's a different conversation for another day. As as to the AFC, I want to say my Bills, but I'm not going to say my Bills. I'm going to say I'm right there with you. Indianapolis Colts. Defensively, they have a takeaway in every single game. Defense is playing outstanding. Carson Wentz is playing outstanding in his resurrection career. And no one has seemed to stop Jonathan Taylor, especially Tampa Bay, who has, I think, still the number one rated rush defense in the NFL. They didn't stop him. So if he gets rolling, I don't know what to expect. Plus, Michael Pittman Jr., T.Y. Hilton, the tight ends are clicking. Everything is clicking for the Colts right now.
Yeah, I do like that though. 49ers. I honestly like the 49ers more than the Rams. You said other than the Rams, but I think you were kind of agreeing that you like the 49ers even over the Rams just because the way that they look. And you brought up a different guy kind of shines every time. There's one guy that every time he's on the floor, teams have to account for, and then that's Deebo Samuel. He was top 5 in receiving yards this season while not even being top 30 in catches. But the last like 4 games, he's been playing running back, and he's still somehow 7th in receiving yards. So Deebo Samuel is a threat. He's a guy that I don't think any team really wants to see line up in the backfield or on the line in the slot out wide. Heck, even at quarterback or tight end, that man could be a threat at left tackle. So Deebo Samuel can do it all. And that 49ers team is very versatile in what they're able to do, especially with Jimmy G playing the way he is. So yeah, they're a pretty dangerous team in the NFC.
Man, I can't wait. You can't wait. Playoff time is going to be fun. Crazy kids, crazy adults, crazy animals that are listening to our podcast. Thank you for tuning in to the 1497 podcast. You always got to trust the process. Like you got to go in every day, write a little message on your board saying trust the process, because that's what me and Mike been doing for a very long time. So, Mike, Mr. Birthday Man, you got any last words to say?
No, I don't. Go Rams tonight, though.
Oh, yes. Go Rams. Go Rams. Anywho, subscribe to our podcast on all podcasting platforms and YouTube. Like and comment our videos on YouTube. Follow our podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We will be back Thursday with a possible interview. Who knows? At a random time. Hey, you just got to look on Apple Podcasts or any podcast platforms and just see, did we post a new episode?
Yeah, post notifications.
The post note, have the noti bell. Gotta have the noti bell on. But as always, trust process. I'm Jonathan Keaton. That's Michael Wood. We out of here.